Sometimes those production fab shops can be kind of picky, depending on what the engineer is on that day.
Look around you, people. It's a conspiracy. It's what the society wants you to believe. The 6G pipe doesn't exist. Look around us in our beautiful world. You have 2Gs, you have 5Gs, but where's the 6Gs?
You see what I mean? They'll basically say, since there's no 6G in the shop, we don't need to test 6G. We need to test them on the old flip-flop. MIG and Flux. Let's do it. A 6G weld test is usually what gets you the job, and a 2G and a 5G is what usually keeps your job. At least that's how the saying goes, because there's way more pipe running vertical or horizontal in 2 or 5G than there is that running at a 45-degree angle like the 6G here. So those engineers have a point. And I've had to take this test twice, both for production fab shops where most of the welds are being rolled out. So again, there's not a whole lot of chances for a weld to come out in a 6G position. Since the 6G weld is so rare in that shop, they've come up with a weld test and a procedure to certify the welders where they can move the weld from a 2G position back to a 5G position. So you might start with the root here, and then once you get more than halfway done, then you're going to flip it up into the 2G position and finish your root. You'll have the inspector look at it. You might as well finish the hot pass while you're at it, and then go ahead and flop it back down to do your hot pass for your 5G. And then once you're finished with that, you can flip it, and then you can flop it, hence the name, the flip-flop weld test. What I'm going to try and brush up on today is that exact weld test and end up bending it at the very end of this video and see if I pass. Now I'm going to admit, working on this rollout wheel where I can move it up and down and also spin it to prep it is way nicer than any other situation I've taken this in. The 2 times I've taken this test before, I've taken it in either a really tight testing booth that you're probably familiar with, or really just simply welding it to the corner of a metal table that they had there and having to really work off the side, which is like worst case Ontario. Regardless, we need to put a bevel on our Schedule 80 pipe and get it fit up. Do what you can with what you got. This Schedule 80 6-inch pipe will get a nice bevel and about a 332 land. Once both pieces are prepped to perfection, I'll fit them together with a 532 gap and bridge tack 3 tacks. The fit up is going to tell us what the weld settings need to be, and honestly, I'd prefer a tighter fit up for a 2G weld than a 5G, but I'll take the wider fit in hopes that things will close up. I like to use bridge tacks anytime I'm rooting with MIG, just because it's easier not to worry about the tie-ins on your tacks if you just cut them out. Before we put a bead in this pipe, I want to go over a few little tools. We're of course going to have our PPE, but I'm going to start with a narrower MIG nozzle for my gun, because I like to walk nozzle for my MIG roots no matter really what position, and then I'm going to go ahead and switch over to a longer neck with a bigger nozzle for my Flux Core. The other thing we're going to have is anytime we're slinging wire, we'll definitely have a pair of welpers on us, and then a file is going to be handy to have around for dressing welds or if we get in a pickle for the inside of the pipe. And then of course your Slag Ripper 9000. It's just basically a reciprocating saw blade with some electrical tape for a handle. This is like way lighter than a file, and it does practically the same thing, and it gets in a lot tighter places. And then of course we'll have a jimmy wheel. We never go anywhere without a jimmy wheel. And then we'll have our angle grinder with 2 wheels. We'll have our cutoff wheels because we're going to need our cutoff wheel to take care of those bridge tacks, and we'll need a 1/8-inch grinding disc to feather everything. We don't want a 1/4-inch disc. It's going to be too wide. They're not even meant to be used on their edges. Oh, and of course we've got the Cyclone 263 PI right here. It'll be the machine, and I'll give the settings for every layer. Let's weld. So I'm going to strategically place my tacks so that the top and bottom tacks are a little bit offset so that I can start my root on the top and weld this big open side first, and all 3 of those tacks should hold everything else in place. Now starting the root pass on the top of the pipe, you'll have to make a bigger weld higher up on your bevel walls, if that makes sense, so you don't get too heavy of a root pass inside the pipe, because gravity naturally lets us have reinforcement. If you're welding and not really moving, metal is still going inside that pipe. It's not until I make it to the side of the pipe where my side to side tightens and I focus more on the bevel edges themselves, and I don't have to go so wide. I'm going to weld till I can't weld anymore, and I'm going to stop and always check on the progress. It's easier to fix it now than later, and you can see that the top of this root pass is a little heavier than definitely on the side. That's what I'm talking about as far as gravity giving it to you versus on the sides where it gets flatter. I'll just need to work on that on the other side by going wider on the top. Any burrs or whiskers will be taken out by the saw blade. This is where that Slag Ripper 3000 comes into play. I'm going to explain this one time, and I do it a bunch on this test, but I'll take an 1/8-inch wheel and feather the ends of my weld religiously for a smooth blended tie-in for that root pass. And then I'll take a cutoff wheel and I'll cut each bridge tack as I come to them at the same angle as the bevel without cutting into the bevel face. I'll put the 1/8-inch disc back on and clean up anything that's left over, so now we have a nice feathered edge to weld off of and nothing to tie into. I'll finish what I think is the hardest part, the bottom. Just getting fusion and as little whiskers as possible inside the pipe is the goal. I got a few here and some BBs. It happens, and I'll be the first one to take a file inside the pipe and knock them out before anyone sees. Last time I made this weld, it was like 2019, so leave me alone. What they don't know won't hurt them. Now that we finished one side, we can start the other portion of the 5G before we flip it. Again, cutting out the tacks with the angle of the bevel and then feathering our tie end before welding religiously. The feathered edge is mandatory for this short circuit MIG. I will knock down my wire feed speed this time and see if that helps keep my root from being too heavy. And we will start at the top and barely make it halfway before stopping, always checking the progress. I think the wire feed speed definitely helped for sure on this side to keep the top a little bit flatter. I'll keep those settings for the 2G root as well. Now all we gotta do is flip it up into the 2G position. We're gonna check our fit up, cut out our bridge tack, feather the starts and stops of our root pass, and then put the root in. You might as well take your flashlight out at this point and get a little peek-see at the face of the root pass since you've got a nice window there. This way you can really guarantee that you've got fusion or no holes or nothing all the way around the weld, whereas looking at it from the side, you don't always see the whole truth. It looks like it all tied into me. It's not exactly consistent, but I think if we keep this up, we'll be good to go. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I really hate a 2G weld. As Bob Moffett used to call it, the horrible zonal. Get it? Because it's a horizontal weld, 2G, horrible. Anyway, gravity always takes effect, and you really gotta plan your way out. And compared to like my 5Gs or 6Gs, I'd much rather take those tests because I just feel like a 2G is just, it always comes out looking way rougher than I'd like, especially with MIG and Flux. The ArcShot camera was a little in my way, so I had to stop, but I'm making a little C motion and focusing a little bit more on the top edge of my bevel and bouncing off the bottom edge in hopes that this will help prevent any overlap or sagging in the root pass on the inside of the pipe. Bring back the file. I shot another whisker or two inside the pipe in my final tie-in. It got a little heavy. I'd maybe call it even too heavy. I'm having some wire feed issues, and I know what it is, but I've been too stubborn to try to fix it. It's definitely fighting me right now. At this point, the root is done, and I'll punch marks onto the pipe where the 2G weld section is just to keep track of everything. Before I hot pass, I'll go ahead and smooth up the root pass. If everything was really smooth already and flat, I wouldn't really do this, but it isn't, so I'm gonna have to get it that way before I continue. I can already tell that if I pass this bend test, it's gonna be because I'm a better grinder than a welder. Once it's smooth, we can switch our machine to pulse MIG. I'm gonna go around 155, 160 amps and like -1 on our trim. Not to mention my angle was leaned really far back. I was so sputtery and so spattery that the beginning of the weld was okay, but by the end there was buckshot city and I had to break out the chisel. That'll make you stop and fix the problem for sure. I didn't film it, but I did sort out the wire feeder issue, cleaned up the start and stop of the 2G weld and flopped it back to 5G. Now the 5G hot pass went a whole lot better. I fixed my wire feeder problem. I kept more consistent angle and that's all it took. The weld procedures I worked off of called for a downhill root pass and a downhill hot pass. So that's why I'm doing it. It's not because I think it's better, but because the company man made me. I'll always give the weld a good jimmy, and at this point I'll knock down any cold starts or high spots on a weld just to make everything nice and flat. Literally, if someone said no grinding on this test, I would probably have a hard time passing it. I just want everything to be nice and even and smooth before I switch over to dual shield flux core. I gotta switch the wires, the head, settings, all that, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch the rollers to some bigger 045 knurled rollers, and I'll go ahead and swap out the heads on my Abby MIG gun to give me a bigger nozzle and a little bit longer neck and to keep me away from the heat. I really do love these Abacor Benzel MIG guns, and shout out to today's video sponsor, you guessed it, Abby MIG guns, or Abacor Benzel. The fact that we could take any head on there, like this isn't new, but they're so interchangeable and they have so many different options. Maybe you want to put on a straight one, you want to put one that bends, you want to have your trigger facing the other way. You can do all that with the Abby MIG gun. Not to mention that this is like my favorite handle, super ergonomic, and it's very lightweight. The hose is super lightweight, but the main reason why I mess with these is because it doesn't matter whether I've got a green machine, I've got a yellow machine, a red machine, a blue machine, they have an adapter to fit all of those. Abacor Benzel knows their way around a torch, and it definitely shows, so shout out to them for today's video. Now, to save some time on my fills, I'm not gonna just run one bead, then flip it, then run that little bead, then flop it, then run a bead, and then flip it. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna run all my fills on one side flush, and then do the other side, fill them up flush, and then flip everything up. I started on the bottom of the pipe thinking I was going to carry one bead weave into the fills, but I got a little nervous as I came up the side. I was about to blow a hole, so I switched things up. Running stringer beads always works for me. I'm just going to weld a straight line basically without letting any of the weld go outside my bevel lines. The first one looked pretty good. I got the bottom full already from those weaves, so I just need to run this other bead the same way. That seemed to get everything full enough on this side. Then I'll start halfway up on the other side just to slap these two slugs, and our 5G fill is done. Take a good look at it, make sure it's even-ish all the way around, and you've got no holes, and now we can flip it. After we flipped it from the 5G fill, we're going to have some really gnarly starts where those 5G was, and you guessed it, we're going to have to grind them. We're going to take those walls and knock them down and make them look more like ramps. Now we're ready to throw in some fills. I found for a 2G weld, I'll weld a little faster than a 5G to avoid the weld from like rolling or getting too much undercut. Like on our 5G weld, I fit 2 welds in this bevel. I fit 2 welds in this fill pass, but the top edge was looking a little low still, but not low enough to put a weld, so I took a grinder and made room and then ran a quick little stripper across the top to get a nice even 2G fill. My goal is different to get ready for the cap for each of these welds. For my 5G weld, I want both of these bevels showing the same or filled in practically even all the way across. I just don't want to see a low center. Whereas a 2G weld, I want to see the top edge all the way full and a decent amount of bevels showing on the bottom. If you don't have a bevel to sit on for a 2G weld, that bead will almost always roll. And the top, if it isn't full, you're usually going to get some undercut trying to fill it. Now we go about capping it. I'm not exactly stoked about how this 2G cap turned out, but regardless, that first bead that I do is always going to be the biggest. Because of the shelf, while making a big enough bead for the next one to sit on, the second bead should basically cap it. I'm just going to watch the top toe barely miss the top bevel edge, and then lastly, we laser a third weld across the top. Immediately when you're done, when the pipe is the hottest, take that file and dress your weld. If you lay a slick one down, you don't need to do this. I'll file anything that looks like undercut or a wonky edge to line stuff up. And then I'll go ahead and press a wire wheel to smear those file marks and kind of hide them. Yes, very sneaky. Once it's as good as it's going to get, I'll go ahead and grind the start and stop, and then we'll flop it one last time. Now the first part of the 5G cap is really easy. It's just the top here, but we do want to make it uniform to the 2G weld. By that I mean, I think I can get this capped in 2, but I'm going to weld kind of quick and see if I can do a 3-bead cap since the 2G weld is also a 3-bead. I don't think that it matters, it's just me attempting to make it look a little bit more uniform. The better you weld, the less you grind, and today I am not him, but we still want to make everything at least kind of smooth and uniform in the same shape. Now on the final side, nothing really changes, but there is a bit of advice that I would give anyone because the bottom always seems to be the hardest part. If you can, cheat your 2G side over a little bit, and by the cap, you won't have to do the dead bottom or reach so far. And then 1, 2, 3 beads in there, boom, the final bead is down, and we go right to the fire and wire wheel. I've seen this really save some ugly welds, and that's definitely going to help me today, but I've even seen good welds make it look like it's done by a robot. I know it ain't the best. I'm looking at it with the same face y'all are. The 5G is okay. The 2G has a little undercut, and my tie-ins all had to get blended because they were kind of high. The root is solid all the way around, but it does have 2 heavy spots. One's probably okay, and the other one I would probably consider a little excessive. Regardless, we might as well just go ahead and bend test this thing. We went through all that trouble on how to weld it. I went through the trouble of teaching you how to pass the test, so I might as well prove to not only myself, but to you guys that this is still going to bend even though it isn't exactly, and if it fails, hopefully we can see why. I'll take my pipe and mark 4 straps. They're all going to be 1 inch wide, 2 root, 2 cap bends. I even pulled 2 of the straps off my tie-ins. Then I'm going to rip them up with the plasma cutter and clean them up. I'm a stickler for a clean bend strap, so everything needs to be nice and smooth, have a nice radius on the corners, really shine it up with all the welds removed. Now for the moment of truth, throwing in the first cap pass, I got my bender in a bit of a bind. 1 second, and there we go. The first strap is clean. Whew. Second cap strap being bent now. Here we go. Up. Let's drop it back down and see. There it is. Another good one. Whew. Now we got to move on to the roots. Third strap is a root, so let's see if this little short circuit MIG root holds up. Drop it back down and nice and smooth. That's what we're looking for. Have hopes for this final one. It's a root as well, and looky there. It may not have been the prettiest weld, everyone, but we passed the test. She was still strong. Hope you could take this flip-flop yourself now.